Here is something that does not make sense on the surface. Right now, 80% of Americans say they feel financial anxiety. That is 4 out of 5 people. Your neighbor, your coworker, your cousin who just got a raise. And this number has stayed stubbornly high for 3 straight years, regardless of whether the economy was growing or shrinking. But here is the number that should really stop you. 42% of Americans earning over $100,000 a year still report struggling with financial insecurity. Almost half of 6-figure earners. Struggling. Think about that for a second. $100,000 a year is over $8,000 a month before taxes. In most of the country, that is a comfortable income. And yet, nearly half the people earning it are losing sleep over money. Meanwhile, for the 3rd consecutive year, the share of American adults who increased their spending was higher than the share who increased their income. We are collectively spending faster than we earn, even as wages rise. So here is the question nobody is asking. If incomes keep going up, why does financial stress stay exactly the same? The answer is not inflation. It is not greed. It is not bad luck. It is your brain. And if you do not understand the mechanism, you could double your salary and still feel broke by Friday. My name is Donald. I research the psychology behind why smart, hardworking people earn more every year and somehow feel no freer. If you have ever gotten a raise and watched it disappear into your lifestyle within 3 months, this video is for you. Hit subscribe because we go deep on this stuff. Not surface level tips. The actual science of how money works with your brain. Let us talk about why more never seems to be enough. Most people picture financial happiness like a staircase. More income, higher step, more peace. Make $40,000, you are stressed. Make $80,000, you are stable. Make $150,000, you are set for life. That is the story we tell ourselves. The problem is our brains do not work that way. There is a phenomenon called hedonic adaptation, and it is the reason your new car smells incredible for 2 weeks and then becomes just your car. It is why the apartment you were so excited to move into feels like just home 6 months later. Your brain, in the most literal neurological sense, normalizes improvement. What was an upgrade becomes the baseline. Then the baseline becomes invisible. Then you start wanting the next thing. Think about how your eyes adjust when you walk into a dark room. At first, you cannot see anything. Within 60 seconds, you can make out the furniture. Your eyes did not get better vision. They recalibrated to a new normal. Income works exactly the same way. The $12,000 raise feels life-changing in April. By September, your nervous system has recalibrated. It is just Tuesday. But here is the part most people miss. It is not just that the happiness fades. It is that income brings something else with it. Options. And options come with a hidden cost. They create expectations. When you made $45,000, you had 2 choices for Friday night. When you make $145,000, you have 40. And 40 choices means 40 chances to wonder if you are choosing wrong. The hot tub you could not afford before is now within reach. So is the ski trip, the private school, the second property. Each new dollar does not just buy comfort. It opens a door to a lifestyle you are now aware you could have. An awareness of something you do not have creates a new form of dissatisfaction that simply did not exist before. This is why lifestyle inflation is not just about being undisciplined. It is psychologically baked in. The options expand before your spending does. And expectation fills the gap instantly. Now, let us talk about what the research actually says, because this is where the story gets interesting. In 2010, economists Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton, both Nobel Prize winners, published one of the most cited studies in personal finance. They analyzed over 450,000 surveys from Americans and found something striking. Emotional happiness rose steadily with income, but only up to about $75,000 per year. After that, daily emotional well-being seemed to plateau. That $75,000 figure went viral. It got quoted in newspapers, used in salary negotiations, printed on motivational posters. There was just one problem. It was not the whole picture. In 2023, Kahneman himself collaborated with University of Pennsylvania researcher Matthew Killingsworth to revisit the data. What they found changed everything. The original plateau was not measuring happiness. It was measuring the reduction of unhappiness. For people who are already deeply miserable, income reduces their suffering up to around $100,000, and then flattens. As Killingsworth put it directly, if you are rich and miserable, more money will not help. But for most other people, emotional well-being continues to rise with income. For the happiest 30%, well-being actually accelerates above $100,000. So the story is more nuanced than a simple ceiling. Money does keep helping. But the key word is helping. It helps most when it removes active suffering. It helps least when you are already comfortable and chasing status. That is where the lottery winner data becomes so clarifying. Researcher Philip Brickman followed people who had won between $50,000 and $1 million in state lotteries. 1 year later, their reported life satisfaction had returned almost entirely to where it was before the win, $1 million. 1 year later, back to baseline. This is not motivational fluff to make you feel better about earning less. This is how your brain is wired. Psychologists call it effective forecasting error. We are reliably, consistently terrible at predicting what will make us happy. We think the promotion changes everything, and 3 months later, it is just our job. The research on scarcity makes the contrast even sharper. Economists Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir studied sugarcane farmers in India who received their entire annual income in one lump sum at harvest time. Before harvest, when cash was scarce and debt was high, the same farmers performed significantly worse on cognitive tests, the equivalent of losing 13 IQ points. After harvest, performance rebounded completely. Same people, same intelligence, same life. The only variable was financial breathing room. That is the real role of money at the lower end of the income scale. It frees up mental bandwidth. When you are worried about the electric bill, part of your brain is permanently occupied with that problem. It never fully clocks out. Solving that problem does not just pay the bill. It gives you back part of your mind. Money removes misery. But once misery is removed, more money mostly removes boredom and replaces it with comparison. Now let us look at some real numbers that make this concrete. What does it actually cost to live a minimal but stable American life? Not luxurious, not traveling to Europe, just rent covered, car reliable, healthcare affordable, and a small emergency fund. For a single adult in 2024, researchers put that number at $47,100 per year. For a couple with 2 children, it is $121,100. The real cost of living rose 4.4% in 2024. Median wages grew only 3.9%. Purchasing power eroded for the 3rd straight year. Now here is what makes this psychologically important. That $121,000 figure for a family of 4 is well above the median household income in the United States, which sits around $81,600 as of 2024. Meaning a typical American family is living below what researchers define as a minimal quality of life. Not because they are irresponsible, because the cost of the basics has outpaced wages for years. So when the couple making $95,000 feels anxious, it is not purely in their head. Some of it is real. The math is genuinely tight. And that is before lifestyle inflation adds anything on top. Now watch what happens when income rises and spending follows it, which it almost always does, because that is what brains do. Imagine two people. Person A earns $80,000 and saves 25%. That is $20,000 a year. At 7% annual return over 25 years, they end up with approximately $1,265,000. Person B earns $150,000 but saves only 5%. That is $7,500 a year. Same market, same time, same return. They end up with approximately $474,000. Person B earns nearly double. Person A ends up nearly 3 times wealthier. Same economy, same market, different relationship with expectations. Person B feels richer every single month, but they are building less than half the wealth because lifestyle crept up in perfect lockstep with every raise and left the same margin as before, just at a higher altitude. And then there is the time problem. Higher income professionals consistently work longer hours, check messages more outside of work, and report higher levels of what researchers call role strain. The feeling of being pulled in too many directions at once. More income, less time. And here is the part that makes this cruel. Of all the variables researchers have studied in relation to life satisfaction, the one most consistently linked to genuine happiness is not income. It is discretionary time. The freedom to spend hours the way you choose, with people you choose. This does not mean you should earn less. It means the goal of earning more needs a companion goal. Protecting time. Otherwise, you trade one scarcity for another. So why does this cycle keep repeating? There are 4 psychological gears turning inside this machine. The first is hedonic adaptation, your nervous system normalizing improvement. We have covered this. Every income increase has a half-life before it becomes invisible. The second is social comparison. Here is the uncomfortable truth about human psychology. We do not benchmark our happiness against our own past. We benchmark it against the people physically around us. The economist Robert Easterlin documented this for decades. Whole countries get richer and report no increase in average happiness because everyone is getting richer together and relative position stays the same. Your brain does not care that you are doing better than your parents did. It cares how you are doing compared to your neighbor who just renovated their kitchen. The third is what behavioral economists call temporal discounting. Your brain assigns dramatically more emotional weight to the present than to the future. An $800 dinner tonight feels real, tangible, worth it. $800 automatically invested this month feels like loss. The dinner shows up in memory. The investment is invisible until decades later when it has become $8,000. And even then, your brain struggles to connect that reward to the choice you made years ago. The fourth is the lifestyle inflation loop itself. Income rises. Expectations rise to match it. The new expectation level becomes the baseline. Any drop below baseline feels like deprivation, even if that baseline would have seemed like luxury 5 years ago. The loop self-sustains unless you deliberately interrupt it. The people who feel financially calm are rarely the highest earners. They are the people whose expenses grow slower than their income, not because they are cheap, because they made a decision about what the money was for. Margin is the operative word here, not income, not net worth as an abstraction. The literal gap between what comes in and what goes out, experienced every single month. That gap is where financial peace actually lives. So here is what we know. Money removes suffering. And it does this powerfully at the lower end of the income spectrum, when financial scarcity is literally borrowing cognitive bandwidth from your brain, your relationships, and your sleep. Getting past that threshold is genuinely life-changing. But once real scarcity is gone, more money mostly delivers options, and options multiply expectations. And expectations recalibrate the baseline, and the baseline becomes invisible. And the cycle begins again. The $100,000 earner who feels trapped is not failing. They are experiencing something completely predictable. Their brain adapted to $100,000. Their social circle normalized it. Their spending met their income. Their baseline moved up. And nobody told them this was going to happen. So the question is not how much you can earn. The question is this: will you let your expectations rise as fast as your income? Or will you let your income rise faster than your expectations? The gap between those two things is called margin. And margin is where financial freedom actually lives. Your future self is not waiting for a bigger salary. They are waiting for the same salary with intentional breathing room built around it. Margin is not an income bracket. It is a decision.